Chapter 44, Bybanks. We're back in Bybanks now. My father and I are living on our farm again, and Gramps is living with us. Gram is buried in the aspen grove where she and Gramps were married. We miss our gooseberry every single day. Lately, I've been wondering if there might be something hidden behind the fireplace, because just as the fireplace was behind the plaster wall and my mother's story was behind Phoebe's, I think there was a third story behind Phoebe's and my mother's. And that was about Gram and Gramps. On the day after Gram was buried, her friend Gloria, the one Gram thought was so much like Phoebe, and the one who had a hankering for Gramps, came to visit Gramps. They sat on her front porch while Gramps talked about Gram for 4 hours straight. Gloria asked if we had any aspirin. She had a grand headache. We haven't seen her since. I wrote to Tom Fleet, the boy who helped Gram with the snake bite on her leg. I told him that Gram had made it back to Bybanks, but unfortunately she came in a coffin. I described the aspen grove where she was buried and told him about the river nearby. He wrote back saying he was sorry about Gram and that maybe he would come and visit the aspen grove someday. Then he asked, "Is your riverbank private property?" Gram's is giving me more driving lessons in the pickup truck. We practice over on Gram's old farm, where the new owner lets us clonk around on the dirt roads. With us rides Gramps' new beagle puppy, which he named Huzza Huzza. Gramps pets the puppy and smokes a pipe as I drive, and we both play the moccasin game. It's a game we made up on our way back from Idaho. We take turns pretending we are walking in someone else's moccasins. If I were walking in Phoebe's moccasins, I would be jealous of her new brother dropping out of the sky. If I were in Gram's moccasins right this minute, I'd want to cool my feet in that river over there. If I were in Ben's moccasins, I would want to kiss Salamanca Hiddle. On and on we go. We walk in everybody's moccasins, and we have discovered some interesting things on the way. One day I realized that our whole trip out to Lewiston had been a gift from Gram and Gramps to me. They were giving me a chance to walk in my mother's moccasins, to see what she had seen and feel what she might have felt on her last trip. I also realized that there were a lot less reasons why my father didn't take me to Idaho when he got the news of her death. He was too grief-stricken, and he was trying to spare me. Only later did I understand that I had to go and see for myself. He was right about one thing, though. We didn't need to bring her body back because she is in the trees, the barn, the fields. Gramps is different. He needs Gram right here. He needs to walk out in that aspen grove and see his gooseberry. One afternoon after we'd been talking about Prometheus stealing fire from the sun to give to man, and about Pandora opening up the forbidden box with all the evils of the world in it, Gramps said that those myths evolved because people needed a way to explain where fire came from and why there was evil in the world. That made me think of Phoebe and the lunatic, and I said, if I were walking in Phoebe's moccasins, I would have to believe in a lunatic and an axe-wielding Mrs. Cadaver to explain my mother's disappearance. Phoebe and her family helped me, I think. They helped me think about and understand my own mother. Phoebe's tales were like fishing in the air. For a while, I needed to believe that my mother was not dead and that she'd come back. I still fish in the air sometimes. It seems to me that we can't explain all the truly awful things in the world, like war and murder and brain tumors, and we can't fix these things. So we look at the frightening things that are closer to us, and we magnify them until they burst open. Inside is something we can manage, something that isn't awful, as it had been the first time it seemed. It is a relief to discover that although there might be axe murderers and kidnappers in the world, most people seem a lot like us, sometimes afraid and sometimes brave, sometimes cruel and sometimes kind. I decided that bravery is looking Pandora's box full in the eye as best you can and then turning to the other box, the one with the smooth, beautiful folds inside, Mama kissing trees, my Gram saying huzza huzza, Gramps in his marriage bed. My mother's postcards and her hair are still beneath the floorboards in my room. I reread the postcards all the time. Gram and Gramps and I have been to every place my mother had. There are the Black Hills, Mount Rushmore, the Badlands. The only card that's still hard for me to read is the one from Coeur d'Alene, the one I received 2 days after she died. When I drive Gramps around in his truck, I also tell him all the stories my mother told me. His favorite is the Navajo one of the Estastanches. She's a woman who never dies. She grows from a baby to a mother to an old woman and then turns into a baby again. On and on she goes, thousands of lives. Gramps likes this, and so do I. I still climb the sugar maple tree, and I have heard the singing tree sing. The sugar maple tree is my thinking place, and yesterday in the sugar maple I realized that I was jealous of 3 things. The first jealousy is a foolish one. I'm jealous of whoever Ben wrote about in his journal because it was not me. And the second jealousy is this. I'm jealous that my mother had wanted more children. Wasn't I enough? When I walk in her moccasins, though, I say, if I were my mother, I might want more children, not because I don't love my Salamanica, but because I love her so much. I want more of these. Maybe that's the fish in the air, and maybe it isn't, but it's what I want to believe. The last jealousy is not foolish, nor is it one that will ever just go away. I'm still jealous that Phoebe's mother came back and not mine. I miss my mother. Ben and Phoebe write to me all the time. Ben sent me a Valentine in the middle of October that said, roses are red, dirt is brown. Please be my Valentine, or else I'll frown. There was a P.S. added. I've never written poetry before. I sent a Valentine back that said, dry is the desert, wet is the rain. Your love for me is not in vain. I added a P.S. that said, I've never written poetry either. Ben and Phoebe and Mrs. Cadaver and Mrs. Partridge are all coming to visit next month. There's a chance that Mr. Berkway might come as well, but Phoebe hopes not, as she does not think she could stand to be in the car for that long with a teacher. My father and I have been scrubbing the house for their visit. I can't wait to show Phoebe and Ben the swimming hole and the fields and the hayloft and the trees and the cows and the chickens. Blackberry, the chicken that Ben gave me, is the queen of the coop, and I'll show Ben her too. I was hoping also for some blackberry kisses. But for now, Gramps has his beagle, and I have my chicken and singing tree, and that's the way it is. Huzza, huzza.